What did you say?
Yak's milk. Milking a yak ain't exactly a picnic. But once you pick the hairs out, it's very nutritious.
Hi there, and welcome to Baseball by Design. I am SportsLogos.net minor league baseball correspondent Paul Caputo, broadcasting live, as always, from the Sunday Helmet Hall of Fame in my basement in Fort Collins, Colorado.
And I am Dan Simon, broadcasting from the Studio Simon headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky. Paul Caputo, how are you this morning?
Dan, I'm doing absolutely great. Good morning, hello, how are you?
I asked first. I am fantastic, thank you. What do we have going here?
Well, today we're going to be talking about a team that there are several directions we could go in this conversation. The Salem RidgeYaks were the Salem Red Sox. They play in a state that I lived in for 10 years. I was in Virginia for 10 years. A different part of the state, I was in Richmond. This is farther out west where the Blue Ridge Mountains and the outdoorsy, adventure-y, the river culture, the mountain culture, the outdoorsy culture. It's a big deal out there in the western part of the state. And this team is tapping into that. But for me, notably, the number of teams named for their parent clubs is just dwindling. It's, I think, down to if you discount the Syracuse Mets, who are rebranding in 2027, I think it's only 8 teams left that are named for their parent clubs in all of affiliated minor league baseball. Out of 120 teams, it's only 8 of them that are still named for their parent club.
Yeah, and not only that, but their former name was 2 words, not counting the Salem part, 2 words, 2 separate words. Their new name is again 2 words, but it's a camel case.
Camel case. Shout out to Leah, the trivia wench.
Yeah. And here's another thought about this. I didn't give this a lot of thought, but it just occurred to me. Kayaks have basically made canoes an afterthought.
We don't really need canoes anymore.
Do you ever see a car on the road with a canoe on the roof?
No, it would have to be like a school bus full of like campers or scouts or something, right? Because the canoe you can put a bunch of people in a way that you could not with a kayak. So are canoes obsolete? Is that what we're saying?
I'm wondering.
Okay.
I'm wondering. All
right. Well, listeners, feel free to call in. Maybe I should give out our 800 number.
Is anybody out there still canoeing? I'm actually real serious. I'd be curious to know, is that still a thing?
All right. This is, it actually raises the point, Dan. I was thinking it'd be fun if we did like a letters segment on the podcast. Like if people wanted to write us letters that we would actually read on the podcast. So if anyone has anything to say about anything, send us a letter and let me know for certain that it's intended for use on the podcast. And we'll start our letters segment.
Not just does anybody have anything to say, but do you have anything to ask? So It could be things you want to say. It could be things you want to ask, things you want to know, anything.
Yeah.
What do you have for us?
I receive notes from folks every now and again, but there's never with the expectation that they would actually be used on air, as it were. Not that this is air, but send us letters, ask us questions, and let us know if you have used a canoe in the last decade.
Yeah, and the incentive for you to write in, we don't have a phone line, so you can't call in, is we're going to make you famous.
Yeah, and Dan will record your voicemail greeting on your cell phone. So you've got that going for you, too.
Okay.
So if anyone wants to send a letter, you can send it to my personal email. It's pauljcaputo@gmail.com. Or just message me on any of the social medias that are out there, and we'll just let me know that it's for the podcast. In the meantime, Dan, on this episode, I'm going to be speaking with Alan Lawrence, who's the general manager with the Salem RidgeYaks, and I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Chris Mayer, who was a professor of recreation in the Blue Ridge Mountains right there in Virginia. And so he's going to talk about the sort of source, the meaning behind this name. And then, of course, Dan, you will be back with a Studio Simon Stumper.
I will. Let's listen to what you've got going until then, and I'll see you in a little bit.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I'm so pleased to have the general manager of the now Salem RidgeYaks, formerly, of course, the Salem Red Sox, Alan Lawrence. Alan, good morning. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks. Thanks for having me.
I'm very pleased to have you. This is it's great to talk to you about this new brand in minor league baseball. I lived in Richmond, Virginia for about 10 years. Went to school there, both at University of Richmond for undergrad and then VCU for graduate school. If I remember correctly, there were just yaks everywhere, just yaks wandering all over the city, just all sorts of yaks. I assume, Salem is not that close to Richmond, but it's the same state. I assume there's just a ton of yaks all over the place. That's how come the Ridge Yaks, yeah?
All over the place, up and down the streets every day.
Yak pest control was a big business in Richmond, Virginia. I remember that. Obviously, this team name, the Ridge Yaks, is there's a lot going on. There's several different meanings embedded in that name, and then there's some fun little Easter eggs in the brand itself. Before we get into all that, I am curious from your perspective. You've been with the team for a while. This decision to change from being named for your parent club to having this unique, fun identity based on the local community is obviously, that was a big organizational change of direction. What went into that decision?
Yeah, I've been with the team for about 25 years. So I
Yeah.
started here when we were the Salem Avalanche and then transitioned to the Red Sox. I was part of that transition from '08 to '09 when we went from the Avalanche to the Red Sox. And, quite frankly, we should have done this a decade ago is when we should have made this change. A lot of teams started going in that direction. Really, what it came down to is, we just felt like it was time to get away from the name of our parent club and come up with something that was more regional, that spoke more to southwestern Virginia, to Salem, to the Roanoke Valley, and so that's really what went into this change. It kind of all started when I approached our owner with Diamond Baseball Holdings at the baseball winter meetings back in Nashville a couple years ago. And just, I think we were both getting ready to say the same thing to each other, but I spoke first and just told him how I would like to explore the possibility of changing our name, and he was on board. The conversation lasted about 2 minutes, and he was fully on board. Again, we should have done this 10 years ago, and fast forward to the time, to a few months ago when I told the Red Sox in Boston what we were going to be doing, they their reaction was finally. We were actually surprised it took this long. So a lot of people have asked me how the Boston Red Sox felt about it. They were on board, and they kind of wish that we had done this years ago. And of course, we used to be owned by the Red Sox, and even during the time when they owned our team, they felt like that we should have done this. It's a massive undertaking, and I think that's probably why we shied away from it a few years ago. But yeah, it was probably about 18 months from beginning to end from going through this process.
So, like I mentioned, there's a lot to unpack here. The ridge is a reference to the Blue Ridge Mountains, which are an incredibly beautiful natural feature there in the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast. And then yaks. Obviously, a lot of teams are named for local wildlife. Yaks are distinctively not local to Virginia, right? Like they live in high elevation in the Himalayas. But you have this fun yak character. He is a blue yak character. Why yaks for Southwest Virginia?
Yeah, we thought yaks was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek reference to kayaking, which, and a lot of people have since told me that yak is not short for kayak, and that's okay, but that's where the meaning comes from, and outdoor recreation is huge in this area. So whether it's hiking, kayaking, canoeing, any kind of, mountainous activities is very popular in this region. So that was what we came up with. We wanted an animal for the sake of the mascot and the kids, and so we went with yak. Yeah, there's no yaks in Salem and no yaks in Virginia to my knowledge, but that's okay. As you know, since we've become the Salem Ridge Yaks, and a lot of people have told me that there's no yaks in Virginia, I start really looking at all of the sports teams throughout the country, and I've realized it's actually harder to find something that is actually, that has a presence in that particular market than not.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, most do not. So that's been an interesting component of this. But yeah, yak is also kind of very very slang for home run, so it kind of ties back into baseball. And we went with Mac the yak because here on the Appalachian Trail and which is a section of that is just down the street from us. McAfee's Knob is one of the most photographed spots on the Appalachian Trail, and Mac is short for McAfee Knob.
It's funny. Like I said, I lived in Richmond for a decade, and I don't recall, and maybe I just wasn't looking in the right places. I don't recall ever seeing a flying squirrel in Richmond. So, yeah, until
Yeah,
there was a baseball team called that.
the list goes on, and I do know that when Richmond renamed to the Flying Squirrels, I know there were a lot of naysayers in Richmond, and now over time they've become one of minor league baseball's most popular brands, and I'm hoping that that's what happens here. All the high school teams in this area are named for something that with no presence in this market, right? The Salem Spartans and the Vikings and there's all the list goes on. We have a lot of ironically there's a lot of Chicago transplants here in
Interesting.
this area. There's I don't frequent Chicago a lot, but when I do, I don't see a lot of Cubs and Bears and Bulls roaming the street either. So again, the list just goes on and on
Yeah.
and on, but it's I think that's what's one of the most fun things about it. It gets people talking, and good, bad, or indifferent. There's a lot of passion behind this brand.
You mentioned the outdoor community there. The Blue Ridge Mountains obviously, play host to a lot of that. The Blue Ridge Mountains feature prominently in this brand. Why was it important to you to make sure that it wasn't just this pun with the yak, but that the Blue Ridge Mountains were also featured in the brand?
Yeah, that's really what we're known for here in this area, and the mountains are such an important part of this area, and that's what brings a lot of people from outside the market to this area. For the hiking and outdoor activities, and we just felt like that incorporating the Blue Ridge Mountains really spoke to the region, and we wanted to figure out a way to incorporate that into the name. There were a lot of people suggesting that we should, rather than being the Salem whatever, we should be the Blue Ridge whatever, so we wanted to stick with Salem because that's our home. But, we felt like that incorporating the Blue Ridge Mountains somehow, some way into the logo was important to us and to everybody in this region. So yeah, a lot of the kind of Easter eggs as you referenced in the logo, incorporate the mountains and the pine trees and things like that. So which has really been, I think, well received from people that like yourself that really look at the logos and understand what's inside of them.
Well, some of those Easter eggs, as you know, that you're referencing here, like the Blue Ridge Mountains themselves, are in. I don't know if it's the hairline or the fur line, but the forehead basically of the yak itself has mountainous features there, and that's one of those things that when you look at it and you see it for the first time, you can't unsee it. One of the other things that I like is that there's a text-based cap logo that's meant to represent like flares on trees if you're hiking. Anyone who has ever hiked any of the Appalachian Trail that you referenced there, right? Like that's a major part of not getting lost is those flares on the trees. They're not super in your face obvious. They're not smacking you in the face with these references, but they're more sort of subtle for like kind of if you know, you know. That was clearly a decision in the design process to not be as in your face with these little Easter eggs here. What was organizationally, from your perspective, what was the thinking there?
Yeah, again, it was important to incorporate all those things somehow, some way, and we really wanted to say that, hey, we're trying to figure out a way to incorporate the hiking and all the outdoor activities into this logo. How do we do it? And so it was little things like that, little subtle things like that we wanted to ingrained into the logo. But to your point, we didn't want them to be like in your face because not everybody is into hiking and outdoor recreation here in this area, but a lot of people are, and that's we feel like that's what really speaks to this region. So, and I think it's fun. I think there's when there's a story behind the logo, which I think we have. To me, that's what's interesting. It's we wanted to hide, kind of hide, quote unquote, hide these things into the logo so that we can create that story. And, in our eyes, it's okay if not everybody understands every little nuance of the logo. To your point, once you know it and once you see it, you can't unsee it. And, over time, we're going to be able to explain this logo to a lot of people. But, in the meantime, for the people that just see it on the surface, I think it's a lot of fun for people to just slowly over time see these things inside the logo and to start to understand it a little bit better.
One of the details that I really like in this logo, you've got Mac the yak, this very menacing. If you were to be in the Himalayas and encounter a yak, you would need to be very careful. He's got this menacing look on his face. He's got a baseball through one of his horns, right? Like so, clearly tough guy. He's kayaking. He's coming right at you in some sort of rough-looking water, and he's got a bright red safety vest on. He's got his flotation device, so he's observing the rules of the river there. Which it's it was an opportunity to bring red into the logo to tie to your parent club, and I think I like that detail there. But it was funny to me that here's this wild animal with a baseball through his horn, and he's coming right at you, and he's got his safety vest on. Was that a conversation during this process?
Yeah, again, we felt like that was the best way to incorporate the red
Yeah.
as part of our parent club into the logo. So we went with the safety vest. I think, I think even incorporating something small as a safety vest gives us a lot of options for fun things into the future, right? I mean, he won't when we have him here at the ballpark for our games, talking to kids and taking pictures with kids, he's not necessarily always going to be wearing a safety vest, but we felt like that was a part of it that we could incorporate that vest and again just do some really fun things, and that's what we're excited about. When we were interestingly enough with our mascot with the Red Sox, we tried to get some of the Boston Red Sox mascots that they had previously used, not Wally the Green Monster, but they had some lefty and righty sock that they used to have at Fenway, and they weren't using it, so they sent it down here. We tried to incorporate that. People hated it. So we actually reverted back to our mascot that we had when we were the Salem Avalanche, a Colorado Rockies, and then interestingly enough, a Houston Astros affiliate called Muggsy, who was just a St. Bernard, who made some sense with the Rockies affiliation, but not necessarily with the Astros affiliation. But the important thing is the kids and people loved Muggsy. So we kept Muggsy as part of our Red Sox affiliation, and really just simply threw a Red Sox jersey on him, and that's what made him a Red Sox affiliation mascot. We're actually still going to keep him. We're not getting rid of him because we felt like it was a lot of people like him, and we don't want to get rid of him, but we're going to introduce Mac at our games, and he's going to be the focal point. We'll bring Muggsy back as one of Mac's buddies that visits him every now and then. But yeah, it's really all the mascot is all about the kids and how can we have fun with the mascot while having fun with the kids.
I think you don't have to have an explanation for, like, oh, this mascot is here because it's like he's a beloved mascot. He's not going anywhere. I think about like the Beloit snappers, right? Like they had Snappy the turtle, and when they changed to the Sky Carp, it's like we're still going to have Snappy around because everybody loves Snappy, and that's the only reason you have to have everyone loves Snappy, so you're still going to have him around. One of the things that I think is notable about this brand is that you worked with a company called the Collegiate Licensing Company, not one of the big firms, not a Brandiose or a Studio Simon or Fooster Sports or Sky Dillon. A company that I have not seen do a ton of work necessarily in this field. What was behind the decision to work with a branding company, a branding firm that has not done a ton of work necessarily in minor league baseball?
Yeah, so CLC is a kind of an arm of Learfield, and our ownership group, Diamond Baseball Holdings, has a great relationship with the folks at Learfield. In fact, a lot of people that are now with DBH have come over from Learfield, and so they had some connections with Learfield. Learfield's done a ton of work in the college space, and certainly created some great brands in college athletics. And, so they've done this. While they're new to minor league baseball, they're not new to creating brands and logos and having fun with with the fans and the kids. And so we went with them, and they did some great work. And it was a process, and they were wonderful throughout the process of just making some small adjustments. They did a ton of research on this area. As you know, and as I've told many people, this is not something that we just woke up one morning and dreamed up, right? This was a lengthy process, and CLC was incredible throughout that process.
Are there any Easter eggs that I'm missing that we haven't chatted about?
Yeah, the bat, that the of course the bat in his mouth. It's that the handle of it is a baseball bat, and then you can see the paddle coming out the other side of his mouth. Again, that was I don't know that that's an Easter egg, so to speak, except possibly the handle is meant to be a baseball bat. Again, we just between that and the baseball on his horn, and then of course the jersey that he will wear here in the ballpark will let people know that that's our mascot. We felt like without a jersey on the primary logo, we needed a way to let people know that this is a baseball team, and we felt like we accomplished that with those two little things. So and then our monogram logo, even the text in the RY is you mentioned the blaze marks that you see on the Appalachian Trail marking the trees, but even the text in all of our logos is really similar to an outfitter style text that you commonly see on the Appalachian Trail. So really everything inside our logo has some sort of a meaning one way or another.
Did most of those meanings come from CLC or from the team's front office?
I think it was a combination. So it was myself and then our assistant general manager, Blair Hoke, that worked on this project with CLC. There were a couple people from our ownership group, of course, that joined from time to time. But we didn't, we Blair and I made the decision not to loop in our staff until a much later part of the process. Now, we went to them and we asked, just like we did with a lot of the stakeholders here in the region. We asked them what was important to them when they thought of Salem, when they thought of the Roanoke Valley, when they thought of Southwestern Virginia. What are some things that they thought about? So we incorporated them in that way, and we relayed all that information onto CLC as part of their deep dive into understanding the important things in this region. But we made the decision not to loop them in on the name until a much later time. In fact, our entire staff did not know the name until about 3 weeks before we announced it publicly. And there were some people in our office that did know. Our finance guy had to pay the bills. Our merchandise guy had to get some merch. Our promotions person had, they a couple of people in that department helped us kind of create really with the whole brand launch and creating the videos and whatnot. So there were about five people that knew the name, but the rest of our staff did not know the name until about 3 weeks before. And we did that because it really is a favor to them, right? Because honestly, a lot of them wanted to know. However, I must have been asked 1,000 times what the new name of the team was going to be, and we were really intentional with not letting that name get out. We wanted to
Yeah.
create the suspense, and it was important to us for people not to know. And I didn't want to put any of them in a position where somebody was going to keep hounding them. And if they could honestly say, "I don't know the name," then I felt like that was doing them a favor. I know that that's what I would have preferred had I
Yeah.
not been in this seat. So I passed that along to them. So and they were all really on board. I think anytime you hear something new, that it always takes a moment, right, to
Yeah.
to really comprehend what's going on. And that's been true of a lot of our fans I think a lot of them are starting to come around. Change is hard, and I think, we selfishly probably think that change in this region is harder for our community than others. And I don't know if that is or isn't the case, but initially a lot of them had a tough time with it. But I think they're starting to come around. And I think the difference between our community now in 2025, 26 versus what they experienced in Richmond 10 plus years ago is social media is so much more prevalent now. So a lot of people can get on social media and they can voice their pleasure or displeasure with a change. And so that's happened a lot. And nothing we didn't anticipate, but it's really given us an opportunity to to the people that don't like it to really explain the reasons behind it. So that's been a fun part of the process, actually.
I don't have any research to back this up. It's purely anecdotal, but my experience has been the more layers there are, the more sort of subtle nuances there are to a very different new brand, the longer it will take for folks to come around on it, but they always do. They always come around on it. Alan, I keep coming back to the fact that you got well actually'd by the by the outdoor community with kayak. Like yak is not what we call kayaks, and it just sort of makes me chuckle because, of course, this day and age, social media and like everyone's got to find something. So I'm glad to hear that people are coming around on it, and I'm going to start calling kayaks yaks from now on. Let's take the yak out.
Yeah, if somebody starts that trend, then it'll come around. We can just say we were ahead of the curve.
I think you guys started that trend. I think that's what it's going to be. Alan, this has been a ton of fun. Thank you so much. Where can people get themselves some RidgeYaks gear? Where can people find the team online and on social media?
Yeah, then go to ridgeyaks.com. We're of course on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media platforms, so they can get us on there. Our season starts April 2nd, so we're excited for that, and it's it should be a fun year of RidgeYaks baseball. We're still in the process of finalizing our promotional calendar, but we got a lot of fun things in store for things that we can do with this RidgeYaks brand, and I think it's going to be something to be excited about for sure.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations on the big splash that made, and can't wait to get to a RidgeYaks game. I never made it to a Salem Red Sox game, but I will do my best now to get back to Virginia and get to a Salem RidgeYaks game. That'll be fun.
Yeah, please do come and see us.
All right, everyone, back by popular demand, Dr. Chris Mayer. The listeners of Baseball by Design have been clamoring for a repeat performance, a repeat visit from you, Dr. Chris, after your groundbreaking debut on the Windy City Thunderbolts episode. You're a Chicago native, so we talked about the Thunderbolts. Now we're talking about the Salem, Virginia RidgeYaks, who play in a part of the country where you lived for the better part of a decade, studying and teaching recreation, outdoor recreation. And this team is based on outdoor recreation. Let's talk about that first. First of all, Dr. Chris, how are you?
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me back. And thanks to all the fans who clamored.
God, they're clamoring. They're clamoring on all the socials. They're clamoring. Their phone is ringing off the hook.
Oh, my gosh. Thank
people
you.
knocking on the door like signs like bring back Dr. Chris. So, all right, everyone, you got your wish. Here's Dr. Chris.
And so here we are.
Yeah.
I did 10 years in the Blue Ridge, Paul, and it really, really got into my heart. The gently rolling hills of one of the oldest mountain ranges on earth. You out where you're at in the Rockies, you've got these tall peaks, but these are so old they've been rounded off by time.
It's amazing, and they're the Blue Ridge Mountains. First of all, what does it mean to say that you teach recreation or that you study recreation? What is that academic discipline?
Wow, you get me into the work scene here. Okay. well, first of all, I want to shout out to Ferrum College, Franklin County, the moonshine capital of the world, Franklin County.
Yeah.
And home to great bluegrass music.
The moonshine capital of the world. That's not Kentucky. The Bowling Green Hot Rods are the team that has the Bootleggers alternate identity.
Oh, no. We've got some of the greatest producers of shine anywhere, and they're still doing it. And I think that it's funny from a touristic standpoint, Franklin County embraces and then pushes away the moniker of the moonshine capital of the world, but I endorse it. So I taught at a little liberal arts college there called Ferrum College, and it's literally tucked into the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's got 64 acres of forest on it, and if you look at it online, you'll see it's an idyllic place to send your kids. And I taught recreation leadership and started the first and only ecotourism major in our country.
Wow.
And there is a great, strong tradition there of outdoor recreation. I mean, this region has so much outdoor recreation. It's incredible. You know, people say Virginia and they think you're either by the Beltway or you're by Virginia Beach or the coast.
Yeah.
It's a unique area. There's mountains all around you.
Yeah.
You can't escape them. So it's really great. It was a great school. So recreation leadership. What is recreation leadership? It is teaching people to produce the professional recreation, that structured, safe, and fun recreation that we need in our modern times.
So, all right. So the Blue Ridge Mountains, you've got the mountains there. What is the role of recreation in those Blue Ridge Mountains? Like, why was Ferrum College perfectly situated to be talking about the kind of recreation that we're discussing?
One of the reasons why we're talking today about the RidgeYaks.
The RidgeYaks, yeah.
The RidgeYaks is, let's just talk about rivers.
Yeah.
Around us, we've got the New River, one of the oldest rivers on Earth. It flows south to north. Fun little fact there.
It's the oldest. And it's one of the oldest rivers on Earth, and it's called the New River.
Yes.
All right.
It's Paul.
Who do we talk to about this?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one. And it cuts through the Appalachian Mountains instead of flowing around them. And the New River is a fantastic place to fish and to kayak for sure. Yeah. I was kayaking on that river a couple of years ago and came across a hollow of a tree, and in the hollow of the tree, Paul, was a black bear just taking a nap. It saw me and jumped out of the tree and ran along the shore and I was paralleling it for a while. And it just was one of those encounters with nature. And you can find unbelievable wildlife there. You're going to see probably bald eagles and be able to catch a variety of great fish. Okay, so the Salem is on the Roanoke River, and the Roanoke River is about 400 miles long. It runs from the Blue Ridge to down into North Carolina, and it doesn't have a lot of whitewater, but it's got some. So they're building a new Virginia's first in-river whitewater park.
Oh.
And it's going to be designed, it's in Wasena Park, and it's going to be designed to work at low water levels so paddlers don't have to wait for big storms. And it will be the first whitewater park built directly in a natural river, not a concrete channel. It's going to be ADA accessible as well. And so it's going to be an awesome destination. Now, think about it, though, thinking back to where you went to school in Richmond, that's a unique situation because you could kayak. You have class 4 and class 5 water right in the middle of town. Not in the middle of town, but right there on the James River.
So yeah, obviously it sounds beautiful. This Salem RidgeYaks, the name comes from obviously the Blue Ridge Mountains, and then yak, the team thought, and apparently has since been well actuallyed and has been told that this is not the case. But yak, they thought was basically like an abbreviation for kayak, like all the kids calling pizza za. They just assumed like, oh, we're calling kayaks yaks these days. Something you ever heard, like working with students, working in an area full of river-based recreation? Did you ever hear yak for kayak?
No, but after a hard night of drinking, yes. Yes. Paul, fun fact, did you know that yaks can swim?
Yaks. So now we're talking about the Himalayas, right? Because that's where yaks are. They live at very high elevations in the Himalayas. I did not know that yaks could swim, Dr. Chris, which is funny because in this logo, the yak is paddling a kayak and he's wearing a life vest.
You ought to wear a life vest. Always safety first.
Yeah.
They live at elevations over 14,000 feet.
Yeah.
And they can swim, and they're often used as pack animals.
Yeah.
They can swim across rivers in cold mountain rivers with loads on their back. Tibetan culture, they symbolize strength, resilience, and adaptability.
Yaks, though, as a symbol for a baseball team. Do you have any opinions on that?
I think it's a good idea just for because it's a symbol of strength.
Yeah.
And I like the logo actually. I liked
Yeah.
how it's kind of coming straight at you,
Yep.
and he's paddling along there.
Did you notice when you were looking at the logo the first time, did you notice that the hairline or the fur line on his forehead is the Blue Ridge Mountains? It's meant to evoke the Blue Ridge Mountains.
No, I didn't see that.
It's like those rolling hills that you were describing there. That's what the RidgeYaks logo is meant to evoke there. All right, let's pull back a little bit and look at the role of sort of recreation, not just in this area of the country, but let's think about recreation, the importance of recreation to the United States as a nation. What is, why are we teaching about recreation? Why are we setting aside areas for it? What's the role of recreation in the larger context of culture in the United States?
There's a deep history of it, Paul.
Yeah.
The National Park Service's original in the Organic Act, it was for preservation for future generations, but the word enjoyment was included in it. So it was the dual mission of both enjoyment and preservation. Some people think they're conflicting because if you are enjoying it, you could be doing that. Paul, think about it. Our government, in its founding documents, in its idea of pursuit of happiness, wanted us to be able to play. Now, let's talk about how that's been enshrined. First of all, who offers a lot of recreation, right? You've got commercial recreation. That's the businesses that offer tours, et cetera. You've got nonprofits like the YMCA. But everybody knows your local park district or county, state, and federal areas are offering national recreation areas, local rec centers, and local city parks. These are all for the enjoyment of the people. Now, even further so, in the Wilderness Act of 1964, our government wants us to have outstanding opportunities for solitude. So not just play, but a place where you can go back to where the signs of man are not present. There are no buildings and no development. It's just your opportunity to be in touch with yourself in terms of nature. And so, those are just pieces of it. We saw the importance of it during COVID, where people were dying to get out on the trails, and outdoor recreation was really, really important then, and it's just as important now. It's good for our mental health. Being out and playing reduces or produces all the good free brain chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins. It's good for our physical body, and it teaches us. Play taught us how to play together. Baseball would not obviously be here if play didn't precede it. Play is where we learn to play nice with others, right? Now you've got a lot, like one of the highest levels of cooperation, a baseball team working together.
Speaking of baseball teams, when you were on talking about the Windy City Thunderbolts, you offered a really vibrant description of seeing a Thunderbolts game with your friends Danny and Joey and Bobby and Jimmy and Teddy, and that was really fun. Living in Roanoke, as you did for 10 years, living in Southwest Virginia.
Oh yeah,
you went
really
to a
close.
Couple of Salem Red Sox games.
Yeah. It was really close by, and the stadium itself is. I remember it on a beautiful fall evening being a very easy and casual and welcoming place, and of course the easy access and great prices that I value in baseball. And Paul, what's the trend of getting away from the names like the Red Sox?
Because it's boring. The Red Sox play in Boston. The Salem Red Sox, Salem's its own community, and they deserved a baseball identity that reflected their community, not just something that was borrowed from their parent club. So out of 120 affiliated minor league teams, we're now fewer than 10 that are named for their parent clubs, and there's more dropping every year because that's just the trend is to bring these communities their own identities, which is I think fair and more fun. And look, I'm not a Red Sox fan. I don't dislike the Red Sox, but I am much more likely to go buy something that says RidgeYaks on it than I am to buy anything that says Red Sox on it. Did you notice, by the way, as an outdoorsman, and I'm sure an avid hiker, that the typography in the logo is meant to evoke the flares that you would see on trees as you're hiking to show the direction that you should be going. Is it flare? Did I get that right?
You mean the blazes?
The blazes. That's what it is. Yes.
I can see that they did. I'm looking at it now. It doesn't scream that. I can tell you that. If that's what they were going for. I think what I like about it is I like that it's a non-traditional typeface. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. It looks good, and I like that they didn't try to put a baseball bat in the yak's hands in lieu of a paddle. Like a lot of times they do that. They try to get some sort of a baseball thing in there. Though he does have a baseball on his horn.
He does. He impaled a baseball at some point while he was kayaking.
Well, I can see. So yeah, it's a good place, and Salem's a great place. There's a lot of great baseball in the region. Ferrum College, Roanoke College, baseball dates back to the early 1900s. There, Ferrum College, 1913. I think that was their first team, probably around 1923. You've got Virginia Tech, and then of course Radford University right there too. So you've got a lot of schools that can help feed into those summer baseball leagues.
Dr. Chris, this is why everyone was clamoring for a repeat performance by you. We're going to have to find another baseball team for you to come talk about because we got to figure out all the places you've lived. Maybe Ecuador?
Hmm. Where I remember where I stayed for a while was Panama and baseball.
Of
Rod
course.
Carew Stadium, of course,
Yeah.
was there. But
Yeah.
now I'm in Phoenix, and Paul, tell me why there are no minor league teams around me.
Because it's too damn hot to play baseball in the summertime unless you're in the air-conditioned Bank One ballpark. It's not the Bank One ballpark. It's something else. Hasn't been the Bank One.
Chase.
Chase Field. It's too damn hot to do anything except for spring training in the Arizona Fall League there, unless you're in the air conditioning. So that's how come you don't have minor league baseball. Distinct from Florida spring training facilities, all of them have minor league teams that play in them during the season, and they're beautiful facilities because the major leaguers are using them for spring training. So I'm sorry that you don't have any minor league baseball in Arizona. You're gonna have to drive to either New Mexico or Southern California to catch some of that, I guess. So, Dr. Chris, thank you for your time and thank you for all of your research that you did and for your wisdom and your insight and for being a great friend. Thank you, Dr. Chris.
All right, Paul.
All right, everyone, welcome back. It is time for Studio Simon Stumpers. Dan, there's so many places we could go here. We've got the animal in yaks. We've got the outdoor adventuriness of kayaking. We've got mountains with the Blue Ridge Mountains. We've got teams that were named for their parent clubs that are not anymore. So many directions to go. I've been up all night studying and researching, trying to prep for this week's Studio Simon Stumper, and we'll see if all that work pays off.
Okay, let's see. Now, in the intro, we were talking about kayaks and canoes, two types of watercraft. So let's talk about watercraft. Our Studio Simon Stumper today asks, which of these minor league teams no longer feature watercraft somewhere in their visual brand identity systems? Is it the Columbus Clippers, the Lake County Captains, or the Staten Island Ferry Hawks?
Okay. I think it's got to be the Captains. Before I commit to that answer, let me think. The Columbus Clippers have always had a clipper ship in their logo. I don't recall that they went away from that in any way. And then the Staten Island Ferry Hawks from our friend Sky Dillon, I believe. That's a Sky Dillon brand.
Yes, it is.
They have the ferry in there. I am fairly sure that they have the ferry itself still in their brand. I hope that I'm right. I'm picturing that brand, and I think I can picture the ferry in it. The Lake County Captains, and you were very purposeful about saying no longer. And so I'm trying to picture the branding that the Lake County Captains unveiled in 2024 that has a revised version of the captain with a big, like, Sam Elliott mustache. It's got the anchor in it. It's got a lot of sort of slightly different elements in it, but I don't recall that one of them is a boat. So I'm going to say that my answer to this question, the answer is definitely not the Clippers. It's probably not the Ferry Hawks. I think that it is the Lake County Captains.
And you are correct.
Oh,
Okay, so the Columbus Clippers, you were right. You said that they've always featured a Clipper ship. It's actually in a number of their various logos. And one of the interesting things about that, and we've actually talked about this, I think it might have been on a stumper. If you did you do an episode on the Columbus Clippers?
we've done the Columbus Clippers. Yeah, I mean, obviously the Clipper ship is notable because, they have a sort of historic ship as their identity because Christopher Columbus famously sailed the ocean blue in 1492. However, Clipper ships weren't around until like 300 years after Christopher Columbus was. So
Right.
Clippers,
We've
talked about
talked
this.
with this about you.
Yeah.
Talked about this with you previously on the podcast.
Yeah.
What we talked about maybe at greater length, and I'll cut to the chase right now. The Nina and the Pinta were caravels. That's the type of ship they were. And the larger flagship Santa Maria was a NAU, N-A-U is the way it's spelled. Another word that's used for that type of ship was carrack, C-A-R-R-A-C-K. So, but not a Clipper ship. They didn't come until like 200 years later. So anyway, and then the Staten Island Ferry Hawks, the Staten Island Ferry is featured in their primary logo and two of their secondary logos. So you see that throughout their brand identity system. And then the Lake County Captains, from what I can tell, and I went on their website, went to the store and looked at all of their shirts and caps and other stuff. And I did not see hide nor hair of any watercraft. There was a ship's wheel in one of the logos, but that's an item on a ship, but not a ship itself. But when I did the Lake County Captain's previous brand update, we included a secondary logo that featured the SS William G. Mather, which was a retired Great Lakes bulk freighter that is now a museum, used as a museum that's docked in Cleveland, Ohio, that the team requested I put into a logo for them. So they had that as a secondary logo, and that was repurposed in 2012 and used for the club's 10th anniversary logo. But that was, 14 years ago, and there's not a ship to be seen on the water of the Lake County Captain's brand identity system.
I was pretty confident in my answer on that one, Dan, and partly because I was just yesterday, at the time of this recording, writing something for sportslogos.net about the Lake County Captains and their new red uniforms that evoked their parent club, the Cleveland Guardians, red uniforms that they wear. And so I was just looking at their branding, and I was in the process of writing that article. I was looking at the article that I had written in 2024 about their new identity that they released in 2024. So it was kind of fresh in my head. So I was pretty confident about that. But then I was trying to picture the Ferry Hawks. That ferry itself obviously is incorporated into that logo. So a good question, a fun one. I shouldn't be surprised when I say this, Dan, but that was a fun one.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm making a concerted effort to do my best to come up with questions that did not require you to just make a wild guess. Nor do I want them to be something that's so obvious that it's not any fun trying to guess it. Although I got to say, when I'm watching Jeopardy and I know an answer right away, that's a heck of a lot of fun. So
it is fun.
But if they're just slam dunks that you don't even have to think about, I don't I don't think that's what Paul Caputo would want.
Sometimes the sussing itself is fun, and if I got them all right, then it wouldn't be that special when I actually do get them right. So I still historically I think I'm probably batting about 500 on these. So it's we're gonna get our intern on figuring that out. But in the meantime, Dan, this has been fun. We are on the doorstep of spring training here. The pitchers and catchers are reporting. I know that we disagree on this. That's not as big a deal to me as the actual games themselves getting started. But we are on the doorstep of spring training, and thank goodness it can't come soon enough.
I as well am looking forward to that. And I do count pitchers and catchers reporting because that's officially boots on the ground. And even though it's not the full squad there and they're not games yet, just knowing there's somebody there throwing balls around and doing baseball is it's a very warm feeling inside when that happens.
It is indeed. And so is getting to talk with you every single week, Dan. It's one of the highlights of my week. We'll see you next week.
I'm looking forward to it. See you then, Paul.